So 6 months ago, I quit my full-time job to start my own business. It was a great job. I was getting paid well and learning a lot, but the itch to start my own business, build something from the ground up and find my freedom was too strong, and I just couldn't pass up the chance. If not now, then when? So I decided to go all in and just get started. But here's something that most new entrepreneurs don't really talk about. There's a ton of things that you don't know. Does it make sense? Like stuff you never even thought would have been a problem until you actually start trying it out for yourself. So, being kind of nervous about this, I figured when I first left my job, it'd be smart to prepare a bit by reading a few books from some great authors that really know what they're talking about. But how do you choose from those countless books and resources all out there? Well, lucky for you, I've done all the research already. And the 3 books that I'm recommending today cover what I think are the most important aspects of that initial solopreneur journey. All the stuff that helps supercharge those beginning stages. And I say solopreneur because that's actually the route that I'm taking. So these recommendations will probably be most helpful if you're also in that bucket as well. But honestly, I feel like any entrepreneur would find all 3 of these books pretty useful in their own lives. And they're also not all pure business books either. Some might surprise you. All right, let's get started. So one thing I want to share with you first is something I found out about like a few weeks ago. And if you're someone like me who loves reading books, especially as a way to learn, I think you'll love this. It's a tool called Shortform, and you can think of them as a resource for super high quality book summaries and breakdowns. Their library is huge and covers a bunch of different genres. Things like self-improvement, entrepreneurship, productivity. It's kind of funny because I didn't actually know about them when I was first starting to read all these books I'm recommending you today. So I ended up taking my own notes at the time, which I thought were pretty good, but turns out Shortform already had summarized notes and breakdowns for all 3 of these books already. And when I took a look, they were actually super detailed and really easy to read. So I really recommend using this platform as a way to remind yourself of like key points and takeaways from all the books you've read in the past. At least that's how I liked using it, since putting down the book to take notes and going back and forth was always kind of annoying. And you can also like avoid marking up your book or using sticky notes and all that kind of stuff too. It's all already stored and neatly summarized. Another way I use it is also as a way to preview books, just to see if the content is like along the lines of what I'm trying to learn about, which can definitely save you a bunch of time and money. So good news is that they've actually reached out for a partnership. So now you can get 20% discount and a free trial if you sign up using my affiliate link. So I'll drop it in the description down below. I still can't believe that all 3 books I read were already neatly summarized with like the most perfect notes on the platform. Compared to my notes, they're like just as good, if not better. So if you like the books I'm gonna recommend you today, it might be worth just going on Shortform and taking a quick look at the summary to see if you also like the content. Okay, let's get to the recommendations. So the first book, and a really important one, is actually something I mentioned in my previous videos because it's such an easy read and has all the business concepts you need to know to get started. It's called The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman. So here's an interesting story. When I was planning what I wanted to do after I quit my job, I found this post on LinkedIn by a guy called Ben Meir, and it was basically a really solid list of books that you can read to basically give yourself that MBA education within 6 months. The list is legit, and I was thinking to myself, should I do this? 6 months is kind of a long time. Not as long as an MBA, obviously, but I didn't want to just learn and get started by doing right away. So I told myself that I'd put all these books on my future read list, since there's definitely some great recommendations there. But I still need to learn the basics somehow, and hopefully in a more condensed version. After all, since I graduated as a biology major, and even though I've worked in consulting and product management, I never actually learned any business concepts formally. So after some more digging and research, I found the Personal MBA book, and man, I'm so happy I did. I think it's perfect for a new entrepreneur just getting started, since it has all the must-know concepts in a really easy-to-read format. Things like how to create value that satisfies needs, entice attention, encourage transactions, and all these great marketing, sales, and finance concepts. Okay, so here's a more tangible example of what you might find in the book. If you're trying to decide what kind of business you want to have, there's 8 ways for businesses to fulfill basic needs. Create or buy products to sell, create an asset and charge for access, supply products and services for subscription fees, rent out physical property, provide a brokerage service for commission, create and monetize attention, and lend money or offer insurance. You can create something of great value that people want, but depending on how you structure the form and delivery of that value, it can change how your business works entirely. And there's a bunch more interesting concepts like this in the book. Personally, I've been rereading the notes for this constantly as I'm running my business. Like when I'm planning out a new marketing campaign, I'd reread some of the marketing concepts and strategies they have and try to apply it in real time. Feels like I'm actually getting a condensed MBA, all for less than 15 bucks. So definitely take a look. All right, on to the next rec. So like I said, not every book I read was a business book, and this one's among modern classic. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I'm betting you might have heard of this book before, but in case you haven't, it's a research-driven, very easy to read guide for how to build and sustain positive habits while getting rid of bad ones. It's simple in premise, but really powerful in application. So why am I recommending this for new entrepreneurs? Well, this is just my opinion, but if you're starting a new career path as a business owner, you're basically learning a new job role. And to practice and hone that job role, that skill, you need to create really good habits, routines, and behaviors to build a solid personal foundation in order to run that successful business. Knowing how to create systems, maintain productivity and motivation, build a positive energy, learn how to deal with failures are all just as, if not more important than understanding business fundamentals. And if that's all not convincing enough, I think this book really does just make you a better human and can make your life just more easier and enjoyable. So what kinds of things does Atomic Habits teach you? Here's a quick example. James writes that there's 4 stages for how habits are formed. The cue, which is what triggers the brain to notice an opportunity for reward. The craving, which is the emotional relevance attached to a certain cue. The response, which is the behavior or habit you perform to elicit the wanted change. And the reward, which is the satisfaction you get from the action you take. So once you know this, you can really start to learn how to manipulate each stage. Like if you want to cue habits better, like taking your vitamins every day, try leaving them in a place where you can see them. There's simple tips like that and a lot more in-depth ones too. It actually works. So overall, a great read for anyone that's trying to live a more intentional life without honestly that much more effort. This one's huge and I think you'll get the hype once you start reading it. Okay, the last book I want to recommend was the ultimate inspiration for me to begin my journey as a solopreneur. If you're worried that starting a business means that you're basically gonna have to work even harder than you did in corporate forever and deal with even more BS as your company grows bigger and bigger, then this book will prove that wrong and change your life. It's called Company of One by Paul Jarvis. Yeah, there really is a way to build a balanced, high-earning life as an entrepreneur without being stressed with growth goals, employees, and complicated infrastructure. This book is basically an argument with great supporting facts and case studies on why building a lean, purpose-driven company is the right way to go for a lot of people. And coming from the world of tech startups, it really hit home for me because I was always surrounded by people where this kind of just seemed the norm, even though I personally didn't want to pursue an all or nothing type of business model, especially as my first business. It's honestly just not what I wanted to do at this stage of my life. And I think this might be true for a lot of other people too. The author Paul basically figured out how to build a strong solopreneur business that he works on a couple hours a week, and he gets to surf and chill with his family and friends the rest of the time. Sounds great, right? I'm not saying it's easy to get to this stage, but I think it's a great goal to have. And if you want a quick peek at one of the learnings from the book, here's some suggestions that Paul has for prospective solopreneurs. Number 1, build your skill set before starting your single person company because you need to be good enough to stand on your own. Number 2, set up a strong legal foundation, like picking the right business entity and creating the right terms of service. And number 3, develop strong customer relationships since small companies don't receive money from investors and depend on high quality relationships to survive. Aside from tips, he also talks about what it's like to live the solopreneur life, focused on building profitability gradually over time versus hyper growth at all costs. If this is the kind of path you prefer, then I definitely recommend reading this before any of the other suggestions I had today. If anything, it might open your eyes to different ways of living that you never thought would have been possible. Honestly, for all 3 of these books, I think it took me maybe like 2 weeks to finish, reading maybe an hour a day. They're simple lessons with lots of stories and research included. I also have the Amazon links to all the books, plus the link to a 20% discount for short form in the description below. Like I said, short form is a pretty good way to preview the books before you decide you want to buy them or not. So give it a try and let me know what you think. Thanks again for sticking till the end and see you soon.